Let's pray. Josh, would you pray?
Father, thank you for the school year that we've had so far, for the blessing that it's been to be able to learn from these incredible teachers, the knowledge that they have instilled in us that we hopefully have made a part of ourselves. Father, we pray for wisdom throughout the coming year, for the ability to be able to serve the school well, to be able to lead through love and laying down our own lives for the students and the faculty. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, there's several components to senior seminar. It's a seminar class, which means it's not necessarily built on a particular curriculum, but personal research, but with a foundation in particular literature. So the first thing is the literature. Whoa, that's not working real well. Oh, this changed on me. Oh. Yeah, so the first one is based in the literature. And let's see if this one works. All right, literature. All right. The second thing it's supposed to do is it's supposed to complement worldview. And the third thing it's supposed to do is develop third thing is leadership. And so we talk about the literature and the ideas that are promoted in the literature. Then we try to connect with worldview as much as we can. So we discuss some of the things you're doing in worldview. And then finally, number 3 is leadership. And that's variable. Good students, engaged, participate in the leadership team. Those who just want to kind of fly under the radar are welcome to do that, but we'll talk about that in just a second. So with the literature, this is the most important thing for now, is we're going to start with Brothers Karamazov, okay? We have 3 months. We have June. That guy. I'm going to stay away from him. June, July, and August. I'd like you for you to read a certain amount of time, and then for us to have a senior seminar meeting, okay? And I'd like to do it in about 3 weeks. So in about 3 weeks, third week if we can, and then in July in the 3rd week if we can, and in August in the 4th week if we can.
I'm confused.
In the 3rd week if we can, and then also we'll have senior camp, which will be the 4th week. All right. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 different meetings on Brothers Karamazov. What that means is you need to read a 4th of the book before June 3rd, another 4th before July 3rd, another 4th by August.
Is this the 3rd day or the 3rd week?
3rd week, sometime in the 3rd week. I'm gonna give you all the assignment of getting those dates down. So the book itself, Brothers Karamazov, I'll show you the table of contents. It has a part 1, and it has several books, and each book has chapters. So part 1 has book 1, and book 1 has 5 chapters. That's the way it's divided up. So you've got part 1, part 2, part 3, and then finally part 4. And so, yes.
Are you okay? Did you need some nourishment now, or did you want to wait?
I'll sit on my desk in there.
Okay.
If you have a black marker, it'd be nice.
Okay, I'll find one.
Thank you. And so, actually, if you're going to be ready by senior camp to have read the whole thing, you're going to have to, it's 800 or 900 pages, depending on which one you get. This one is only 750 pages. So divide it up. And so what happens on these meetings is we review and we sort of identify themes and make application. In just a minute, I'll tell you how I want you to keep a journal as you go through the book. So this will be the first piece of literature. The good part about it, it's a heavy read, and so I count this as a big part of your second semester. What that means is second semester, when you get bogged down with other things, you've already done second semester. We'll come back to it near the end probably, sometimes we do, but you're doing the work, so you get the credit. It's like doing half a year ahead of time, because there's more to it than just this book. So overall with the literature, let me just let you know this. We'll do 3 Russians. We'll do, in addition to Dostoevsky, we'll do, thank you so much. We'll do Tolstoy. Have you all heard of Tolstoy?
Does
Yes.
he wrote War and Peace?
Yes, he did. Have you read that?
I have read like pieces and parts of it.
Yeah. We'll do a short story. Oevsky. And then we'll do Solzhenitsyn. I don't know how you spell it. Solzhenitsyn. Oh, I know it's got the E, the Y, and the I in it. Solzhenitsyn. I'll just say it. Solzhenitsyn. All right.
Can you? I'm just kidding.
No. So Dostoevsky is Brothers Karamazov. Tolstoy is The Death of Ivan Ilyich. And Solzhenitsyn wrote a book called One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. I think you'll like it. It's a short story, really, a novella. Okay, after that we'll do a book called 1984. It's a horrifying book. Hopefully it will scare you. And then after that, we come back by Christmas time and do A Tale of Two Cities. Which is a beautiful story. It is a far, far better thing I do than I have ever done before. Have you all ever heard that? That's the final line of this book. Have you ever heard it's the best of times, the worst of times? That's the first line of this book. It's a pretty well-known book. And so this guy is he's British. He's a Brit. Then we come back and we do Robinson Crusoe. And sometimes Robinson Crusoe is considered the first English novel. And then after that, we have a little bit of wiggle room. What we're going to finish up today is Cry the Beloved Country. And that is, his name's Patton. And he's in South Africa.
Will you repeat that?
Repeat what?
The name of the...
Cry the Beloved Country.
Okay.
Oh, the name of the thing? Cry the Beloved Country. Can't you read my writing?
I forgot to bring my glasses today.
It doesn't matter. You can read it. If you had them, you couldn't read it. I can't read it. It's just so garbled. Okay, so this will be the literature we do. And very, very soon you'll find that our theme for senior seminar is love. A particular kind of love. And it follows all the way through. So there you go. That's what we'll be doing in literature. At the end of class, I'll come back and we'll do a little bit of introduction to Brothers Karamazov. Okay. All right. The second thing is worldview. You always do 4 papers in worldview, and just about every other quarter, what I do is I joined with Mr. Grissom, and one paper's assigned, and we both grade it. I really push for you to involve your previous literature. You know, as you've gone through Marcio, you're supposed to read about 60 pieces, 60 works. And I like to stir those back up, review them, take you back. So for example, maybe go back to My Antonia. Did you all read that this year or was that last year?
This year.
My Antonia has a lot to do with really remaining faithful and true to your roots, to the patria, to the culture and your heritage, right? And as you get separated from that and you get further away, you change. And to not leave what has been instilled in you through your culture. It goes back to Virgil. Remember in the founding of Rome, Romulus and Remus, Aeneas. Remember when he left, he took his father with him and took his idols with him. He was faithful to what he had been brought up in. And so My Antonia, it really shows you what happens to those who remain connected to the land and those who get captured by the city. Cry the Beloved Country is also a book that really shows you what happens when you leave your heritage behind and you go seeking fame, fortune, adventure. Believe it or not, Robinson Crusoe is very specifically aimed at helping you be faithful to your parents and the culture in which you were raised, as opposed to being captured by, you know, what's beyond the horizon. So those kinds of ideas, I'll try to stir back up out of your literature, not just your new worldview readings, but to go back into your literature. So all along the summer, I will remind you, hey, what was Huckleberry Finn really about? What was Moby Dick really about? What lessons did you learn? And that's where the notebook will come in. All right, and so we'll track what's going on in worldview, and we'll try to relate some of our readings and discussions in class about worldview. And then one part of worldview that I like to add in that doesn't happen in other classes. That's interesting. It doesn't happen in other in Mr. Grissom's class is we will take a senior trip, and it will include art, theater, and art, theater, and it seems like there's something else that we do. Oh yeah, and the music. So these three things we'll try to do, and of course, when you talk about a classical education, there are three primary ideas. What are they? The
trivium and
the true, the
good and the just.
and the beautiful. Yeah. The true, the good, and the beautiful. So the beautiful, which is aesthetics. We don't really have a class as such, but in senior trip and throughout the year, we'll do a few of these things to sort of fill out that part of your education. And really, because it's hands-on and just things we do, you can really count that as a particular credit. So the way I've structured senior seminar is so that you can count it as a credit either in art or English, or really if you want to, because we do it in the summer, and so you have a full summer class and you also have your class, you can use it both as an English credit and an art credit if you need to. You will do enough work for it to be 2 credits, all right? And so however you need to put that on your resume, not your resume, your transcript, just make sure your parents know they can use it both as art, and then, yeah, and then leadership. Leadership is based in love. And so what we do with Brothers Karamazov and our first 2 Russians really lays the foundation for me to decide who you all are and how much of the leadership of Mars Hill I'm going to share with you. It's not a given. You don't get to be part of the leadership team because you're a senior. You can only be part of the team if you're a senior, or there's some circumstance that we think we need to pull a junior or 2 in. But just because you're a senior doesn't mean it's guaranteed. It has to do with both academic, ethical, and spiritual. If you're a solid student, if you work hard, if you love your education, why would we want you to lead the school if you were always griping about your education? We wouldn't. If you're a student that struggles, and because you struggle, you work extra hard, we would want you to be part of the leadership team. But if you're a student who struggles and you use that as an excuse, so it's not, you don't have to be able to get a 33 on your ACT to be on the leadership team, but by now we know your potential, and we know if you rise to that potential, or if you use your smarts to get A's, but you really could get A pluses, or you use your drawbacks as excuses. So we'll talk about that with each one of you, and usually through the summer we have a person or 2 that honestly repents and gets honest. Everybody knows, by this time everybody knows you, everybody knows what you can do. They hear your comments in class, they hear your comments around the table, and now we're not playing games. It's not about education. It's about you being called to serve the people of God. And you have to have vulnerability and honesty and accountability to do that. And usually, every year or 2, I end up having to ask somebody to step off the leadership team because either they plagiarized or they've gone outside the bounds into promiscuity in one way or another, and no one's condemned, no one's brought before the school. It just happens, and it's done quietly, but you can't lead if you can't live what you're trying to lead people in. Mm-hmm. And so academics, ethics or morality, and just an ongoing, you don't have to have a charismatic emotional expression about your relationship with God. You can even have some doubts about God and be on the leadership team. As a matter of fact, I would like you on the leadership team if you have a doubt here or there, as long as you're pressing in. But if you're turning and you're rebelling because of doubts, that's a different story. People process differently. And as they come to a place where they're making their own decisions, some, for some reason, have a gift of faith, and instead of going into doubt and belief and journey, they really, they thrive, and they become Bible study leaders in their senior year, and they start churches, Other people, as they try to process, they go through this angst, and they start a trajectory, either a trajectory toward a long prodigal journey or a trajectory toward pressing in to fight through the doubt and the unbelief. The person who's pressing through, you're welcome on the leadership team. The one who is, it sounds like I got disconnected. I don't know why that happens. The one who is disconnected, we just think it'd be better for you to not be on the team for yourself and, you know, for the school. So, literature, worldview sub aesthetics, the beautiful, and then leadership. So in all of this, I want you to keep your senior journal. And in your senior journal, of course you'll probably journal as you read through the literature. But I want your senior journal to be different. I want you to pull a quote or two or several from each book. Most people have about 6 or 8 quotes that they love out of Brothers Karamazov. You'll see them. And so you have your senior journal. And what you're going to do is you're going to write down what you think will be life guiding principles, values, ideas. And when we get together each week, I'll tell you about that too. I almost forgot. Well, let me just go ahead and tell you that. So this summer, we're going to meet every month, and it'll be in the evening. We'll do a meal. It'll be at my house. But then when school starts each month, we're going to meet on a Monday night at one of your houses, and we'll rotate. So your job is to invite, host, and coordinate the calendar. It's really hard. So we'll keep doing that. And so when we do that, we'll discuss the literature we're in a little bit, and then we'll open our journals and we'll just share with each other the things that are significant to us, the things that we're learning, maybe in worldview, maybe maybe something we learned last year in history or whatever. So the journal will capture literature, worldview, hopefully a lot of leadership things, and it'll kind of be your journal that you'll look back on and you'll have and refer back to. And it would be fine with me, since it's your senior year, if some key things, not fine with me, I hope, there's some key things you learn also at church, and you put those in your senior journal as well. This journal is what's going on with you, what you're learning, what God's speaking to you, and it's your life being shaped and formed. And then we can share that with each other at our monthly meetings. All right, that's it. That's what we're going to do. Any questions?
So the just to get it straight, the monthly meetings, senior meetings are different than the literature meetings, or are they the same thing?
They're the same. We'll start with when we have that meeting, we'll discuss the literature a little bit, and then we'll move on to, hopefully you'll have some life applications out of the literature of that month. But there will probably be other things that fold into it too. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And would those also be usually Mondays?
What is that?
The summer Monday nights. What day of the week would that be?
Yeah, I think I'm going to leave in just a minute, and then you all are going to tell me what night it is.
Okay.
It cannot be Wednesday, because I work on Wednesdays. I prefer that it not be Tuesday, because that's my home group, but I will change that.
Or Saturday, right? At church.
Bill can preach. I can skip church.
Okay.
Yeah, no, not Saturday. And so that leaves what? Monday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday.
Friday.
Yeah. Sundays have been good evenings, except for Ukrainians. It's not.
Yeah,
It's
not a good
it's
one
a big
for
day.
me.
So, well, I'm not going to waste my time. You will find that it's a very time-consuming thing, and so I'm not going to waste my time. it's your responsibility
Okay.
to tell me what I'm doing, okay? All right. So, you have any questions about it? That's a good question. So, we'll start now. We'll have meetings once a month until you graduate. Over the summer, it'll mostly be Brothers Karamazov. Senior seminar, though, or senior, the leadership, we have senior retreat. And at senior retreat, we will talk about specific leadership things based in the heart of what we learned from Brothers Karamazov. That's an amazing book.
I can't wait. My sisters still read it.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people do. Few people don't. Few people never read it. It's a long, intimidating book. And they kind of flew under the radar and didn't get it. And, you know, I have no bitterness about it. I just hate that you know, they weren't shaped and formed to the place that they could engage a work like this. But I think you all will be fine. Feel free to listen to parts of it. Read some, but feel free to listen to parts. I think it's about 38 hours of reading. Over 3 months, that shouldn't kill you. All right, any questions about the overall deal? And then we'll just talk about Brothers K a little bit.
Do you want us to use like an actual journal, or were you like typing it out?
I'd like you to have something you can carry around with
Okay.
you.
I like that, but
Mhm.
I didn't know.
No, thanks for
That's
asking.
good question.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, so you'll start your journal next week. School ends this, Friday's your last day of junior year, and then senior year starts the Monday following.
So we should start reading this coming Monday?
You can start reading tomorrow if you want to.
Okay.
But at least have book one read by whenever you choose to have the first senior meeting.
Which is the third week of January.
Possibly.
Possibly.
You all might.
Yeah. We just have to figure it out because he doesn't want to waste his time.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Sorry, I know that's kind of rude, but
It's okay, I understand.
you know, if you could trust two people, then everybody should leave and let those two people do it. So that the others, I mean, why should everybody go through the harangue? All right, so let's talk about Brother Karamazov a little bit. Dostoevsky lived in the middle of the 19th century. What time is it?
108.
We have about 20 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Dostoevsky lived before communism, and he grew up under the Tsar. Well, the ideas of socialism, communism, overthrowing the Tsar were sown during this period of time. And as a writer, Dostoevsky had enjoyed a little bit of success. There was one of the famous earlier writers had recognized him, and he was kind of moving in those circles. And he got involved in this group of people that were anti-Tsarist. They were basically rebels. Dostoevsky wasn't really for taking up arms, but he was associated with this group. Well, they got caught, and they were brought to trial, and they were sentenced to death. And so there were several of them, and they were in groups. And the first group had been brought before the firing squad, and the command was given: ready, aim. And just at that moment, a courier came riding up, and the Tsar, at the last minute, had pardoned them and commuted their sentence. Actually, he had changed it to a certain amount of time in prison. And so Dostoevsky had gone through all the thoughts at that point of his young life. My life is over. What's it been? Who am I? What's life all about? So he goes to prison for 5 or 6 years over in Siberia. On his way to prison, someone hands him, guess what? a New Testament. We still have that New Testament. And we see the places he marked and the places that he went back to. You are going to see much of the New Testament written in Brothers Karamazov. You're going to be like, obviously this guy knows his Bible very well. And so while he's in prison, he recants, and his attitude on a lot of things change. He comes back to the church, becomes a Christian in the ways that they understood Christianity. It's different than in evangelicalism, but he became a believer in God and a follower of God. And rather than a socialist or a revolutionary, he became a czarist and supported the czar for the rest of his life. Of course, we know that the czar was killed. The czar of Russia, the last czar of Russia, was killed. He was murdered. But Dostoevsky comes back. His life is totally changed, and a lot of what he writes about in his literature. He's got one called The Idiot, and he writes a lot about justice and people. Being in prison for 6 years, you get this uncanny understanding of what makes people tick, and that comes out in a lot of his writing. Well, Brothers Karamazov is the last book he writes. People believe that there was going to be a sequel, but he dies after this one, and this is the most autobiographical of all the books. The protagonist, well, you'll have to decide who the protagonist is. Some people think it's one person, others think it's a different character. But there is a character in here named Alyosha. And Alyosha really loves God. He goes through a small crisis, but for the most part, he's just one of these guys who gets it early and sticks with it. He goes through a real change in the way he approaches his life due to his mentor, but he always pretty much stays true. There's one scene where he wavers a bit, with good reason. It's when his mentor dies, and he sort of loses faith because he thought some particular things would happen around that, and it didn't. And it made him almost ate some sausage. He almost went way off the deep end and ate some sausage, but somebody handed him an onion, and so he was okay. You'll find out what that means, all right? But the thing is, Alyosha is the name of Dostoevsky's son who died when he was young. And so a lot of people believe that this, it's just his expression of relationship with his son that he doesn't have. And he's like the perfect son. So, you're going to start reading this book. You got to pay close attention to a lot of the stuff that goes on in the beginning. And there's, let me give you just some primary characters. The first character is, Fyodor Karamazov. He's a pig. Karamazov means black spot. The theme of the book, a lot of it has to do with the nature and character of man. And that man is basically fallen. And there's a line that you'll come across. It says, we are all Karamazovs. In other words, we've all been touched by sin. It's a deep book. You can't read a paragraph with there have been 3 things in it that you're not going to get unless somebody tells you it's there. And you have to read a lot of what other people have said about it to really get the whole thing. But I'm going to give you a few quick things that'll kind of move you ahead so that you're not really missing some of the points. And so Fyodor, he's a womanizer. I think he's a gambler. He's certainly a drinker. He's all the things you don't want to be. And he has 3 sons he has Alyosha. He has Ivan. And he has Dmitri. Now, Alyosha is the one who is spiritual. When the book opens up, he is attending seminary, basically. Not really seminary, but he's in the monastery. He's being mentored by Father Zosima. Okay? Now, Ivan, he has just returned from St. Petersburg, where he went to college. So he is intellectual. And then you have Dmitri. Dmitri was a military man. He too, like Fyodor, was somewhat of a womanizer. He definitely was a partier. And so he's just really, he's just really an earthy, fleshy.
Like granola?
Yeah, exactly. He's like granola.
That's good.
No. You know, he's led about by his passions. He's a passionate guy. You know.
In a bad way.
Yes. So this is about black spot. Humankind is touched by sin, and so we exist in a certain way, and we have to deal with it. You have one son who has a little bit of all of this, but he primarily has a trajectory toward the spiritual. Ivan's trajectory is obvious toward the intellectual, and he is somewhat of, let's call him an atheist or agnostic, maybe more agnostic. It all stays kind of confused. You never really know for sure what anybody is, because they say things that are religious, but the way they act indicates that they live a different way, and so it's real interesting. And so you've got this guy Ivan, who is intellectual, and you have Dmitri, who is he's led by his passions. Okay. Is anything starting to ring a bell? What's ringing a bell, Adam? Okay, that's okay. You shook your head. Yes, I thought.
I had it and then I lost it.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything reading? What's ringing? What? Come on, help me.
The three portions of the soul in Plato.
The three portions of the soul in Plato, looking for what justice or the right way to live is. Okay? What are human beings supposed to be? How do we cope with our humanity? And how do we be what we're supposed to be? And you're going to find a lot of great guidance. And just know that this guy is like 65 years old. He's lived his life. He faced death at a young age. And he spent his whole life among the literati and seeking to know what the truth is. He has this keen insight of people because of his association, in prison with them. Yeah.
How old was he when he went into prison and that kind of
I
stuff?
think he made it maybe mid-20s.
Okay.
Yeah. Adam?
So, do you think the book would have been written if he didn't get his hands on the New Testament?
If pigs could fly, how much would eggs cost in China? How can you ever know that? I mean, how would you be able to answer that question? What do you think?
Well, I think
If he hadn't got his hands on a New Testament, would he have written Brother Karamazov?
I would think he probably would not have written it unless it was his. If you believe in destiny, if it was his destiny to write it, then he would have found a way to write it. But if you don't believe in destiny, then who can say?
So that brings the question, do you believe in destiny?
Oh goodness.
Just saying.
We had a whole youth about that.
Oh,
We
okay.
did for a while.
Wait, what, Daniel? Was it Daniel?
That's a good question. Write it down and answer it for yourself as you go through this book. Since it is pretty autobiographical, any particular event that happened in his life, if it hadn't happened, it may not have shown up in this book. He may have still written the book, it might just not have those parts. Okay, so you've got these guys. A big theme is going to be fathers and sons. Pay close attention to Dimitri's mom, and then Alyosha and Ivan's mom. They had different mothers. Pay attention to the names of the mothers. Figure out what their names mean. Figure out what kind of people they are. And then remember, it's a story about family. It's a dysfunctional family. You've got the father, Fyodor, who is just, he's just awful in every way. And and as we've gone through this over the years, students identify with one person or another. I always identified with Alyosha early on. But the more I read it, the more I identified with Fyodor. And the fact that in comparison to other people, I might feel like I'm more like Alyosha. But as I press into God and compare myself to God, I feel more like Fyodor. And enjoy great grace because of that. You know, I don't feel like I'm not living for God. I just am realizing how much more there is of God that I need to imbibe of and make part of my life. And some of the challenges in this book are pretty amazing. So, I hope you'll be challenged. I hope you'll be changed as you read this book. Father Zosima, he's the character that everybody loves. He's the guy who's been processed. And even when he was younger, you're going to read about his life. It was interesting what happened to him. Father Zosima is his name. I'll put him up here. Father Zosima. All right. And he lives in the monastery. And when it opens up, Alyosha is living in the monastery as well. But early on in the book, he leaves the monastery. He's actually encouraged to leave by Father Zosima. And that's a very interesting thing that goes on. And there's a couple of quotes there that you'll pick up that a mentor shares with a student. Let me read it to you if I can find it. I don't know if I have so many marked. Okay. So what happens is Father Zosima, as he's getting older, tells Alyosha that he needs to leave, and Alyosha's like, "No, I want to become, a monk. And for the time being, your place is not here. I give you my blessing for a great obedience in the world." Huh? Oh, I want to come, and I want to be in the monastery, and I want to spend all my time seeking God. No. I'm going to give you a blessing to go and have a great obedience in the world. You still have much journeying before you, and you will have to marry. Yes, you will. You will have to endure everything before you come back again. And there will be much work to do. But I have no doubt of you. That is why I am sending you. Christ is with you. Keep him, and he will keep you. I believe that there are thousands of young men who went to seminary that should have been sent out to get a job, to send out to raise a family, and to send out to be walking in a great obedience of life before they try to become mentors and advisors to other people. And so what happens is Alyosha then does go out and he becomes counselor, lover, supporter, Christ to all the other characters in the book. And you see God working through him. And just the story of Christ comes over and over through this book. So keep that alive in you. Let me read you, we should end, but let me read you the epilogue, or the
Prologue?
pardon me?
Prologue?
Yeah. Some of the books don't even have it in it. This one does, so I know. Oh, here we go. It's not the prologue. What's it called? It's
Preface?
Introduction.
huh?
Introduction, preface, prologue, blog,
Mm-mm.
Forward?
No.
opening
I'll get the name for it. Here you go. Verily, verily, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. John 12:24. I give you my blessing to leave this place and to go out into the world for a great obedience. And you must endure many things before you come back. That's the book. It's a great book. It's amazing. So, God bless you. Father, as these men and women give themselves to study this book, I ask that you would open their hearts, open their minds. And God, for those who are challenged in reading, Lord, I pray that you would give them grace and that they would find you in the words. And I bless you for that, honor you for it. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Right.